Our habitats are turning into...
This is live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India live on DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Sakal Bhatin, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarks on a three-nation visit to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana. Terrorists do not terrorize India anymore. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks at the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit in New Delhi. Ukraine President Zelensky says war will end sooner once Trump enters White House. And in sports, legendary boxer Mike Tyson's return to ring against Jake Paul ends in defeat. Netflix crashes during bout. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has embarked on a 5-day visit to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana. Prime Minister Modi will participate in a wide range of programs, both bilateral and multilateral, which will add momentum to India's ties with various nations. In the first leg of the visit, the Prime Minister is visiting Nigeria from November 16 to November 17. Prime Minister Modi is visiting the West African nation on the invitation of Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This will be his first visit to Nigeria, which is India's close partner in the West African region. Prime Minister Modi's visit aims to strengthen bilateral trade between the two countries and work closely on people-to-people contact. India established its diplomatic mission in Lagos in 1958, 2 years before Nigeria's independence. And in his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi said his visit to Nigeria will be an opportunity to build upon strategic partnership that is based on shared belief in democracy and pluralism. Prime Minister also said that he was eagerly looking forward to meeting the Indian community and friends from Nigeria who have sent him warm welcome messages in Hindi. In Brazil, the Prime Minister will attend the 19th G20 summit. Prime Minister Modi is visiting Guyana at the invitation of President Mohammad Irfan Ali. This will be the first ever visit of an Indian Prime Minister in over 50 years. During this visit, the Prime Minister will also join leaders from the Caribbean partner countries for the second India-CARICOM summit. The summit will enable the leaders to renew historical ties and expand cooperation into new domains. And after Abuja, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be heading to Brazil's Rio de Janeiro to take part in the G20 summit. G20 is a grouping of the world's 20 biggest economies, which include the European Union and, for the first time, the African Union. Unprecedented security arrangements have been made in Rio to ensure the summit remains incident-free over the 18th and 19th of November. DD India's Gautam Roy reports from Rio.
Brazilian military forces already taking positions at the venue of the 19th G20 meeting taking place in Rio de Janeiro on the 18th and 19th of this month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be participating here as well, along with the leaders of the world's 20 largest economies who will be deliberating on key issues such as eliminating hunger and poverty, sustainable development and reform of global institutions. There will be a lot of focus on how to further increase the growth of these economies as well, and global growth too, because that is connected with a lot of problems and challenges that really confront the world apart from the conflicts in both Ukraine and Gaza.
Brazil has pulled out all stops to ensure that the sites serving as venues for different G20 related events in Rio de Janeiro are secure. Be it land, sea or air, Brazilian Army, Navy and Air Force, in collaboration with the state government, municipal authorities, various agencies and public security organizations have all been brought to muster. The nation's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has invoked Guarantee of Law and Order or GLO special powers, under which the army alone has deployed over 7,500 troops all over the city. They are not only guarding dignitaries and venues, but also working to thwart terrorists, cyber attacks and drones. The Navy is providing maritime security by controlling access to cities' ports, safeguarding coastal areas, protecting critical infrastructure and supporting ground operations.
Christ the Redeemer watches over Rio all the time. But for the G20 summit, where delegates of over 60 nations and heads of state and government of over 40 countries are gathering, nothing is being left to chance. Be it the air, the sea or the land, the Army, Navy and the Air Force are going to be watching all proceedings very, very closely to ensure that everything takes place very smoothly without any incident. With camera person Loknath, Gautam Roy, Rio, Brazil, DD India.
And Brazil's Minister of Social Development, Wellington Dias, on Friday launched the Global Alliance for Hunger and Poverty just before the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. The initiative brings together 41 initial members, including developed countries, NGOs and financial institutions. Their goal is to lift 500 million people out of poverty through cash transfers and social protection systems. The alliance aims to remove all nations from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organizations. Hunger map by 2030. Wellington Dias said he expected the alliance to reach its 100-country target soon, with over 50 countries currently developing their participation plans. In other news, the Hindustan Times Leadership Summit 2024, marking a century of the institution, was held in New Delhi today. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister shared his vision for India's future. Here's more on the key takeaways from the event.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi released a commemorative stamp to honor the institution's century-long journey and applauded its role in shaping India's media landscape.
हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स ने अपने 100 साल में 25 साल गुलामी के देखे हैं और 75 साल आजादी के देखे हैं। इन 100 वर्षों में जिस शक्ति ने भारत का भाग्य बनाया है, भारत को दिशा दिखाई है, वो है भारत के सामान्य मानवी की सूझबूझ, भारत के सामान्य मानवी का सामर्थ्य।
In his speech, the Prime Minister reflected on the major strides taken by his government over the last decade, pointing to advancements in infrastructure, digital innovation and social welfare reforms. He emphasized how these initiatives have laid a strong foundation for India's future growth.
हम प्रोग्रेस ऑफ द पीपल, प्रोग्रेस बाय द पीपल, प्रोग्रेस फॉर द पीपल के मंत्र को लेकर चल रहे हैं। हमारा उद्देश्य नया भारत बनाने का है, भारत को विकसित बनाने का है। और जब हम इस विराट लक्ष्य को लेकर निकल पड़े हैं, तो भारत की जनता ने भी हमें अपने विश्वास की पूंजी सौंपी है।
Looking ahead, PM Modi outlined his vision for a modern India, driven by youth, technology and inclusivity. He reiterated his commitment to turning India into a global powerhouse, stating that the country's next century should be one of unprecedented growth and development.
इन्वेस्टमेंट हो, इन्वेस्टमेंट से एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट हो, डेवलपमेंट हो और वो डेवलपमेंट भारत के नागरिकों की डिग्निटी बढ़ाए, डिग्निटी सुनिश्चित करें।
The three-day HT summit comes to a close on Saturday evening, with participants and speakers from across the globe sharing their thoughts on various fields ranging from politics, economics, geopolitics and entertainment. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
In other news, US President Joe Biden will meet Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Peru's capital Lima. This will be the third in-person meeting between the two leaders, who met earlier in Indonesia's Bali at the G20 summit in 2022 and again in California during APEC summit in 2023. The meeting is expected to be the last meeting between the top leaders of the two major economies. The two leaders are expected to review the bilateral relations between the two nations during the meeting. 。  . 。  . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 。 . 。 . 。 。 .
. . . . 。 .
。 US President also met with the leaders of Japan and South Korea on Friday, aiming to solidify diplomatic progress ahead of the upcoming Trump administration. The meeting was held on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Lima in Peru. Discussions focused on regional challenges, including rising tensions with North Korea, which has deployed troops to Russia in support of its conflict in Ukraine and the nation's ongoing nuclear weapons program.
We've now reached the moment of significant political change, and I congratulate the Prime Minister for his taking office, and this is likely to be my last trilateral meeting with this important group, but I'm proud to have helped be one of the parts of building this partnership. I truly believe cooperation of our countries will be the foundation to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific for many years to come if we stay together.
In order to effectively respond to international challenges of intensifying complexity, our trilateral partnership has become more important than ever. I look forward to furthering our partnership in response against North Korea and in many other areas.
Since the Camp David Leaders Summit last year, led by President Biden, our trilateral cooperation has become and is becoming stronger every day. The trilateral cooperation now goes beyond the security, as it has developed into comprehensive and institutional cooperation that encompasses economy, advanced technologies such as AI and quantum technology, as well as exchange between future generations.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said the U.S. counts on partnerships in the Asia-Pacific. Speaking at the APEC summit in Lima on Friday, he highlighted the U.S. trilateral cooperation with Japan and South Korea, as well as the deepened ties with India, Japan, Australia and ASEAN.
Here in the Asia-Pacific, we bolstered trilateral cooperation with Japan and Korea. We deepened ties with the Quad, India, Japan and Australia, and ASEAN. We've elevated our relationships with Vietnam and Indonesia. We launched the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, bringing together 14 countries, some 40% of the world's GDP, to build more secure supply chains, to combat corruption, to transition to clean energy. We've stepped up our engagement with APEC, including welcoming many of you to San Francisco last year, where we secured important new commitments toward creating a more resilient and sustainable future for all of us, like strengthening our food systems, increasing women's economic participation.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of APEC forum, China's President Xi Jinping met fellow Asian leaders, including Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba on Friday. Reportedly, Xi told Ishiba in their first meeting that China hoped Japan would properly handle major issues such as history and Taiwan, whereas Ishiba, who took office in October, reportedly told Xi Jinping that Japan wanted to build a constructive and stable relationship, but expressed concerns about Chinese maritime activities. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump continues to nominate allies for his new White House team. Trump on Friday announced the name of Carolina Leavitt as the latest addition to his cabinet to serve as the White House press secretary. Leavitt, who previously held the role of National Press Secretary for Trump's 2024 U.S. presidential campaign, was also part of the Trump administration as the Assistant Press Secretary of the White House during his first tenure. Earlier, the U.S. President-elect selected the campaign spokesperson Stephen Cheung as White House Communications Director, as well as named Sergio Gore to lead the presidential personal office. Trump also announced on Friday that North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, which is his choice to head the Interior Department, would also lead a newly created National Energy Council that will seek to establish U.S. energy dominance around the world. And still to come on this edition of DT India Live, this is what we have for you. Coming up on the other side, Lebanese government is reviewing a U.S. truce proposal in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict. And Indonesia and Australia conduct first joint live fire exercise.
Our habitats are turning into concrete jungles, and that is concerning, but there is hope even in this grim reality.
Our rivers are like lifelines. They are spaces for humans, for biodiversity, and yes, we have neglected them so far, but really that's an opportunity for us to restore them to their natural conditions.
We now have species that can adapt by conserving the water they have instead of letting it evaporate and being easy to care for.
We have always been farmers in my family. We used to do chemical farming with hybrid seed varieties, but now we have switched to organic farming with natural seeds.
This embankment will be removed and the river will be widened to cover the grassland up to the wider flood embankments on both the Swiss and Austrian side.
You're watching DT India Live. I'm Sakal, but let's now move on. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz initiated a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, which reportedly lasted about an hour and revolved around different aspects of Russia-Ukraine conflict. Scholz urged Putin to pull his forces out of Ukraine and begin talks with Kyiv in their first phone call in nearly 2 years. The Kremlin confirmed the conversation. It said Putin has told Scholz any agreement to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict must take Russian security interests into account and reflect new territorial realities. The German Chancellor urged Russia to show willingness to enter talks with the aim of achieving a just and lasting peace.
This conversation took place on the initiative of the German side. The political will to learn Russia's position firsthand is something that cannot but cause satisfaction. But at the same time, there were quite detailed discussions, first of all on the Ukrainian theme, frank discussions as we have said in our statement. So of course there are quite deep disagreements, but the very fact of the dialogue is very positive.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Scholz's call with Putin would open a Pandora's box by undermining efforts to isolate the Russian leader.
Chancellor Scholz told me that he was going to call Putin. Olaf's call, in my opinion, is Pandora box. Now there may be other conversations, other calls, just a lot of words. And this is exactly what Putin has long wanted. It is extremely important for him to weaken his isolation of Russia, and conduct talks as ordinary talks which won't have any result, the way he did it for decades.
Further, Zelensky said Russia-Ukraine conflict would end sooner than it otherwise would have done once Donald Trump becomes US president next year. He added that he had a constructive exchange with Donald Trump during their telephonic conversation after his victory in the US presidential elections. Speaking at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach in Florida, Trump said that we are going to work very hard on Russia and Ukraine, and it's got to stop. And now moving on to some updates from West Asia, where a series of heavy Israeli airstrikes struck the southern suburbs of Beirut on Friday for the fourth consecutive day as Lebanese officials studied a U.S. plan for a ceasefire. The Lebanese government is reviewing a U.S. truce proposal in the Israel-Hezbollah conflict nearly 2 months since cross-border clashes escalated. Ceasefire efforts spearheaded by the United States and France have so far failed to halt the hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah. U.S. Ambassador Lisa Johnson discussed a 13-point proposal with senior Lebanese officials on Thursday. Israel has yet to respond to the plan. If an agreement is reached, Washington and Paris would issue a joint statement, followed by a 60-day truce during which Lebanon will redeploy troops in the southern border area near Israel. Meanwhile, Iran has expressed support for any decision made by Lebanon to secure a ceasefire with Israel. Ali Larijani, a senior advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, met Lebanese officials in Beirut on Friday, the third high-profile Iranian solidarity visit since the Israel-Hezbollah conflict began in September. Speaking to media after meeting, Lebanese Prime Minister and Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani said that Tehran wants to see an end to a conflict. He added that Iran supports the Lebanese nation under any circumstances. Indonesia and Australia conducted live fire drills in the eastern part of Indonesia's Java Island on Saturday. The drills were conducted to mark the end of a joint military exercise since signing a new defence pact in August. The 4-day Keris Woomera exercise, which involved 2,000 personnel from both countries, is the largest combined joint activities by the two countries' military under the Australia-Indonesia Defence Cooperation Agreement. Let's take a look at the other stories making news today. With an aim to support Suriname's social welfare program, India has sent its first consignment of food grains and other edible items to Suriname. India's Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, Anupriya Patel, represented the country at the 4th Ministerial High-Level Global Conference on Antimicrobial Resistance held at Jeddah in Saudi Arabia on Saturday. The Narcotics Control Bureau recovered 82.53 kilograms of high-grade cocaine worth 900 crore rupees in a major operation in Delhi on Saturday. 4 people have been apprehended in this matter so far. Hundreds of Indian youngsters gathered at the Territorial Army Recruitment Rally 2024-25 in India's Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir's Bhadarwah district on Saturday. Territorial Army's recruitment drive will continue till 27 November across the country. The Machal sector of Jammu and Kashmir received fresh snowfall on Saturday, attracting tourists to its stunning landscapes. The entire sector, blanketed with snow, further enhanced the picturesque beauty of the region. On to some sports news. Legendary boxer Mike Tyson's return to ring ended in a defeat, with YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul cruising to victory in Texas. 58-year-old Tyson barely landed a punch during the 8-round bout at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, with Paul winning by a big margin. 27-year-old Paul used his superior speed and movement to dominate the aging Tyson with ease and had the former heavyweight champion in trouble with landing with a flurry of punches in the 3rd round. Netflix live streamed the bout across the globe. However, Netflix witnessed global outage on its app and website, with fans complaining of multiple issues, especially during the main event. The bout was watched by around 70,000 spectators in the stadium and millions of viewers of Netflix around the world. Well, New Delhi is set to host the Asia Pacific Bokeh and Bowling Competition 2024, a landmark event celebrating inclusivity in sports. Speaking ahead of the competition, Dr. Mallika Nadda, President of Special Olympics Bharat, highlighted its significance.
Set to host the first Bocce and bowling competition, and it's a historic feat. And right now I am joined by the President of the Special Olympic Bharat, Dr. Mallika Nadda ji. Ma'am, a very warm welcome, and first time India is hosting such a prestigious tournament like bowling and bocce competition. So what's the significance of this competition, especially in the context of India?
Special Olympics Bharat is hosting bocce and bowling competition for 22 plus senior athletes, which is one of its kind. For the first time, India is hosting Special Olympics event. The significance of this event is that we are highlighting the age group of 22 plus who are senior athletes and who often do not get opportunities to participate in World Games. Our focus area in this game is our senior 22 plus athletes.
It's very rare to watch the senior athletes are given an opportunity. So being the president of the Asia Pacific Council too, so how this idea generated?
To reach the unreached section of the society is what we aim at, and giving sports opportunity to all intellectually challenged people in our society. Special Olympics mission is to provide year-round sports, competition and activities to athletes, adults as well as children. So keeping that in mind, and after COVID, when we look back at the lost numbers, it is with quite distress we find that athletes beyond the age of 22 or who are seniors are not able to participate in any activities connected to sports or any competition.
Do you think that this event, especially the first time India is hosting, it will give a big push towards the India's medal tally?
Special Olympics, Bharat will take a lead in training our athletes, and our participation in World Games will definitely increase.
Definitely, with this, we can say the mega event that is being hosted in New Delhi, we are hoping that the kind of initiative is taken by the Special Olympic Bharat, reaching the people, the athletes who are, we can say, they're deprived, not getting any chance. Definitely, this initiative, we can say that one of the milestones, and it will help to create a more inclusive society. With camera person Vicky Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
Well, that's it for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. That's right on your screen. This application is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.